Yeah, so like that's why I'm trying to find like things that are like more fun. Like this game supposedly is like a Call of Duty and like a like I don't know, it's like pretty much like a Call of Duty. So I just was like, you know what, let's download it. It's free. I like playing the free games because like nowadays like most of the games are free. It's just they want you to pay for those microtransactions and like that's how they like get you to pay over 60, $70 that games cost these days. So I'm more of the guy that just doesn't really spend money on that and like I just rock like the OG stuff and like people just get like they're like, man, you look so funny at playing this game, but it's like, it's free. I made it free. I'm not spending like hundreds of dollars on a game because people, over $100 on Apex Legends, and like I think I spent like maybe $20, and the game's been out for like 5 years now.
Yeah,
So
it's it's so funny too. Like I would almost bet you that, and like I don't know too much about it, so I'm just kind of talking here. But I would almost bet you that people end up spending more with like all the dozens of microtransactions that they make, because there'll be like $1 for this like suit of armor, and then there'll be another like upgrade to it that it's like,
yep.
you know, dragon coated diamond armor, and I need to have that, and it's like they'll do those updates every so often, so you end up spending like 100 something bucks on it, as opposed to that like $60 for like a game, for like a new game. Just be
Yeah, I
like the
mean,
gold.
you say $1, but there are some legendary rare like sets on Apex that you would have to spend almost 60 or $70 just to get the one set of armor and like some like charms and like yeah. So it's like some of them are not even $1. Like yeah, you could probably spend yeah. So it's like some of these games that they're just more than $1 or two, and it's just like wild that people buy them, but. Gainz. It's been a while, Gainz Nation. Yeah, yeah.
And on a little bit of a hiatus.
It's been kind of nice though. It's like a refresher. It's like Roman and I kind of went on a sabbatical. We kind of found ourselves through nature. I'm just messing around. I don't. I you know. It's always good to take time off of things, um, and a lot of people don't realize that we've been kind of going hard for like 4 years,
I
more than
think
4 years.
I think five in
Yeah,
the yeah. I
yeah.
think
So
we did fall of 2019 is when
Yeah, so we're pretty much releasing an episode every week for like almost 5 years now. So, taking 3 weeks off, is like pretty much nothing compared to like the 5 years of like information and time we kind of spent on this. And I don't know about you, Roman, but it's like, it's kind of a breath of fresh air sometimes, and it's nice. And yeah, I think we're gonna, especially with the summer coming up, I think we got a lot of good things going, and people want to do stuff with us and it's just a matter of time of doing it. I know Gainz Nation. I talked to Roman earlier. I have that book review coming out um, probably in the next week. I post it. I'll post this one this week, and then probably get the book review and maybe another podcast next week. And then yeah, I mean, whoever wants to have different books and stuff, if you want to recommend something, or if you want me to do the recommending, I got a long list of books that I have to read. I've taken a hiatus on reading too. I feel like I haven't really been reading all too much lately too. So we'll get them gains going. But Roman, before we start off, how's lifting been, and how's everything been going on with you, buddy?
man, I feel like since we last talked, like the just came off the train and I just like derailed. I, I like threw out my back at the like about the same time I like did something crazy to my my left hip, which I'm still kind of like rehabbing. I and this will bring us to the topic that we're going to discuss today, but I think I was maybe pushing a little bit too hard coming back from my trip, probably trying like the quote unquote catch up mentality. So that's always a good piece of like information, is it's like, hey, like if you have to miss some time, like don't worry about like quote unquote catching up, like work on like working back up to where you were before, and don't do it like all at once. So I was talking to a buddy earlier today, and he was saying like, man, 155 on bench feels like crazy heavy. Well, this person hasn't been in years. Like they work out religiously, like in their basement and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and they run all the time. But like that's a novel stimulus since he hasn't done it for so long. So what I'd say is like be kind of like gentle with yourself and take your time. Like you will get back there. Like if you're used to repping like 225 on bench and like 155 feels heavy, well, like step it down to like 115, 135. I know it's like eating a huge piece of humble pie, but in 12 weeks, most likely you'll be back to like that high 100 range, maybe even close to that like low 200 range, so that by the time you get into your next program cycle, you'll be able to get back up to that point. So that's kind of what I've seen like in my own journey, and then also like working with a number of people over a number of different years. That's what I've seen with them too. Everyone's a little different. But yeah, so I like throughout my back, I couldn't sleep because my back and my hip hurt so bad. So like I'm a very like restless sleeper. So I like roll around a lot. So every time I'd roll around, I like wake myself up and I'd be like in a tremendous amount of pain. And it, like I still don't know exactly what I did, but I think it was kind of a sign to say like, hey, you got to step away from the gym, you got to deload, you got to like focus on your recovery. So my present thought is I might have strained some sort of like serratus muscle, and that's like what was causing that like kind of like stabbing, shooting, like burning, like pain and sensation like from my like across my trunk. So that's my present understanding. With the hip, I have no idea what I did. I had like a little like soreness / like recurrent pain, but it was like very low grade for a while. So I was just being very mindful about the training that I did for like legs and whatnot. But out of nowhere, I just started like limping like crazy because it was just like my left hip, like my hip socket like was killing me, buddy. This is like a couple weeks after getting back from Jamaica, and I'm like, oh my god, well finally age is like crept up to me, and like
you're not even old.
At 32. This is a downfall of my like lifting career. You know, it's just being like, you know, me being a prima donna, right?
Yeah.
As many are. So I took a week off from the gym, and yeah, I'll stop it there for the update. But I did a little bit of introspection on my training, and I created some thoughts that I wanted to share with Gainz Nation to hopefully either avoid this happening for you, or so like when you feel these kind of like you know, maybe like short-term sports-related injuries creep up, that you might be able to catch it, interdict, and then throw either like a preemptive or like craft and like reshape your deload strategy. So I'll stop there, buddy. What have you been up to?
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it short, and I also want to, at the end of what you're going to talk about today, it's funny, I just had a conversation with someone at the gym, and instead of lifting, I guess I'll bring like a different side of this, and he's had some troubles with like his running and his training with running. He's this guy at the gym, he lifts and runs, and he's done like a half marathon before, so he's a pretty serious runner per se. But like quick updates. My squat has been feeling great. I'm able to rep over 315 again. I just posted a video of me doing 315 for two. I think I want to say I did 325 or 335 for a single. Felt really good. I didn't have a spotter, and I didn't set up for if I had no spotter. I didn't really have like a kill it plan. So I went up to 335 like graciously, hit that, and it felt good. The only problem right now I'm having, everything else has like been fine, but like I've been having some pretty bad tennis elbow in both my elbows, and I think it's from squatting. And this is why recording is so important. I think when I'm going up, my elbows are still kind of just shooting back just a little bit too much and too fast when I'm squatting. And just this past Wednesday, I did some pause squats and lowered the weight a little bit to try to, you know, keep it tight, keep my back as tight as possible, keep my grip better. I think I shortened the grip too, or made it a little bit more narrow, so I can get a better shelf. I was just getting kind of lazy and Mark Belling it a little bit, just like kind of getting it really wide, and I think maybe that's also why I just think I'm just not getting tight enough in my upper back, even though it's it doesn't move. Like it's pretty stuck there. It's just like I said, when I slow things down, I fixed the hip issue where I was shooting my hips up first, and now it's like one fluent movement. But now to stack on that, it just my elbows shoot back just a little bit, and I do feel it the most when I'm done squatting, especially when I got up to like 315 or 335. So it's semi affecting like bicep curls, like pressing, tricep stuff, and like pulling sometimes. So again, I don't want it to affect the other things, and I want to say it's coming from that. That's what, like I said, that's why I feel it the most. So I have to fix that, and then yeah, that's all I got. So we can get going, so we can talk about it.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
interested to hear like more updates of like what you try and hear like what's successful, like what works, what doesn't work, because I think that'd be really helpful for our listeners.
Yeah, I've been prehabbing with some of Dr. Kyle Richmond's protocols. Obviously the physical therapist and chiropractic doctor who we got on the podcast twice last year. So I've been doing some of his stuff. It helps just getting kind of like a good rotation on my wrist with a kettlebell, and I've been just kind of just stretching those muscles in between where the forearm meets the elbow, stuff like that. So I've been doing that, and it's actually been helping me quite a bit to just kind of work on that area. But what I think is, no matter how much I do that stuff, I have to miss the miscue in my squat, or it's just going to keep happening. Because the heavier days I go, the more I feel it in my arms. So when I go a little bit lighter, I don't feel it as much. So you could tell something's kind of breaking down.
I wondered, have you been doing any shoulder mobility or shoulder stability drills as well?
Not really.
That's where I would probably focus on, because memory serves, when I've seen you do that, I would say it's probably a stability issue in the shoulder. So this is essentially what I recall Antoine's squat form looks like, generally speaking.
I love how you know my squat form.
So it's something along the lines of this. He's got a little bit more forward lean than I do.
Like a stay in efforting.
And when he comes up, you're gonna see this with the shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
or with the elbows rather. So It's like this. So what I would focus on is all the car stuff that Dr. Richmond talked to him about with the wrist, great stuff. I'd also focus on shoulder stability type stuff. So it could be whether he's down here and working on scapular mobility, for example. It could be elevation and depression. Obviously, it'd be more like this. You want to work against gravity with traps type stuff. It may be some external and internal rotation type stuff, but whatever you can add in, and then just stick to that, see if that works. But absolutely, I love the fact that you're going down in weight. You're not just letting your ego drive you, and you're back on trying to like re-hone in on that form, buddy.
It's hard because I see Mr. Robert Courtney squatting 345, and it made me a little zealous, and I wanted to catch it and go for 345, 350. But I texted him like right after about it too.
Remember, Rob, just like myself, our moment arms are like this. Remember, because look at these legs, legs. Where Antoine, like 6 foot, like 14 and a half inches tall.
No excuses. I still want that 350 or 400-pound squat.
I love that, buddy. I can jump right into my deload notes if you want.
Go ahead.
That's sweet. I'm gonna have to go off camera for a hot second. Gainz Nation.
So they'll see my awesome face.
Yeah. So let's see here. I wonder if I should go over my general notes first, because that kind of goes over my deload, and then I'll talk about my strategy for what I call workout counting, and then I'll go into ratios of deloading, something I'll call novelty stresses during deloading, we'll talk about weeks off and focusing on stretching and some very light lifting, which is kind of a tangent to novelty stresses. And then we'll talk about stress reduction strategies. So I have a note that just is called general notes. So I deloaded the week of 5/12 to 5/18. Let me put my calendar because I can tell you the date. 5/12 to 5/18. So the 9th was my last workout. Let me put my workout of the 9th. May 9th. It's so bad that I'm like out of breath just from doing that.
Yeah, I know. I was about to make that comment, but I didn't want to call you a fatty on that one because you were breathing heavy when you were showing the shoulder stuff.
Whoopsies! It's a little hot in my room right now, too. I'm gonna blame it on that and the heat. So okay, it was a shoulder and arms day. It looks like I did PM down. I don't think I did any of the PM stuff. So in the AM, I did a 10-minute treadmill walk for warm up. This is all at fitness in my town. Did seated shoulder press, 3 sets of looks like 10, 8, and 9 for reps at 40, 35, and 30 pounds. Some dumbbell lateral raises, which I'd built up to 20 pounds. I did 17, 14, and 11. It looks like I hit RP 10 on set 3. Some machine reverse flies, 4 sets, and some dips. That was it. And then the morning of the 10th, I woke up and my hip and my back were just wrenched to all hell. So that brings me back to my notes, general note. Let's fly back up here. So I made a note that my left hip had been bothering me for about 1 to 2 weeks. And my assumption is that the deload should help with the recovery, which it did. My middle back started to hurt after the 19th session. So I went back and I counted the sessions. So it was the 19th session. I want to say I was probably between 10 or 11 sets on the low end for probably some like lower body days, upwards of maybe like 21 or 22 sets. I think 22 was the high towards the end of that like 4-week cycle or session. So the strategy that I'm working on presently, and I can let you know where I'm at in this process, is to deload at about 3.5 weeks or 17 to 18 sessions in. I'm actually going to preempt it because it was 19 sessions. I'm going to deload after the 15th session. So I'll take a week deload. So that would be, I'm saying next planned deload would be week of 6/2 to 6/8, depending on how I am feeling. Plan for the rest of the mesocycle, stretch more, don't leave gym without stretching, in session at least 5 minutes before planning to leave gym, increase cardio, aerobic endurance activity, because as you can hear, I am over here. So I would say I'm probably wrong about the date that I was going to deload because today will be my 8th workout since I've kind of gotten back to it. And today is mostly upper, I think. It is back, chest, shoulders, and arms. Yep, back, chest, shoulders, and arms. So that brings me to my deload notes, which is a strategy called workout counting. So I can jump back on video because I know what I want to talk about for this. Whoops, that's the audio. Let's see if we can find the video. Hello. All right. So typically, I'll jump to the second note, which is ratios of deloading. So we usually talk about like a 3-to-1 paradigm. That for the longest time has been like the gold standard. Renaissance periodization, RP, and Dr. Mike, they've kind of like railed against it for the longest time. I would say I'm not the biggest fan of railing against it because if you have like a long-standing tradition, unless there is a ton of research demonstrating across different and broad populations, then that would probably be where I would say that recommendation should be like thrown away. But I will caveat that as you become a more intermediate or you like enter that level of like expert or advanced lifter, so that's probably like 10 to 20 years for that final stage of diligent training that entire time and continual development in that field and that understanding. So you don't have to be like a PhD or anything along those lines, but not like a casual lifter that goes and just like benches benches twice a week or something along those lines, unless you're a bench specialist. So all caveats aside, 3-to-1 has always been the paradigm, meaning 3 weeks of building. So first week, you get all your lifts in. Second week, you get all your lifts in. You might add in some additional stressors such as more sets, more weight, more sets and more reps. Third week, you continue to do the same, keep building. Fourth week, you interdict or you interrupt that cycle and you deload. And the reason being is you try to decrease the stress. So Dr. Mike RP has been really big about kind of like railing against that and saying like, hey, this is kind of an outdated way of deloading. Again, if this is a successful strategy for you, I would say do you, boo, and enjoy the gains. What a lot of people have moved to is trying to extend that ratio out to see how far they can go. So they might do like a 4-to-1 paradigm, a 5-to-1 paradigm, a 6-to-1 paradigm, etc. I haven't heard too.
And for me, it's more like 6 or 7-to-1 lately. Like it's been like around that, not like 4 or 3-to-1. So it's I feel like for me it's like that. So I just keep going. Sorry, I want to interrupt.
So mine's gonna probably be anywhere between a 3 to 4-to-1, and I'm gonna retest it to see if it works for me, because I've experimented with some different things. I've done the 4-to-1 in the past. I've done 5-to-1. I want to say I've probably even done as far as like 7-to-1 is probably the longest I've ever done before. Because usually something inevitable will happen where I like have to take a couple of sessions off, or a couple of light sessions, which is like.
Would you count something like that then to the 1?
Yeah, it definitely can be, and that's the thing. Like if
so like for me, like I just went to Canada from Thursday till Tuesday, so I didn't really work out until Wednesday, so almost a whole week off. I mean, we did like a circuit there when it was like crappy outside. So would you consider that a week then, pretty much off?
Oh yeah, 100%.
I just want to throw it out there because people probably might think like that wouldn't count, and then just like say if they're on their second week and then they came back and then they did a third week and added from the second week, and then they took the week off after that. I just want to throw another example. So if like someone had that question and they're listening, they're like, well, I took like 4 or 5 days off, like, couldn't this be considered a deload, or is it not,
So, and I would say sometimes you can even deload a particular body part. So let's say like your knees have been killing you, but you find that when you do any hamstring work, it doesn't really bother you. But when you do any like quad work, like
extensions,
it like flares. So it might be a situation where you say like, all right, like no knee extension or knee and hip extension drills or like exercises for a week, but everything else is like riding and cruising, right? So you can do it via body part. And then I want to go.
What if you deload like legs forever and just hit arms? Is that cool too then?
Oh yeah, I mean, for some people, like arm day every day. So get them gains, baby. So you can take it one step further too, though, and instead of saying like you're going to deload after X amount of workouts, for example, you might say after X amount of sets. So you might find that after you've reached 80 sets in a cycle, that's when you start to get some like pains that creep back up. You get a little bit of let's say a decrement in your performance of a particular movement, or
I just want to throw it out there. Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt one more time. It's like the leg press for me. Like if I remember in like we're talking like Mike Israel deep leg press. Like I can only shoot like 2 or 3 sets of that in a session. If I do more than 3, I'm telling you, like I feel like my ears are just popped like the whole time, and I can't hear when I talk. It feels like my ears are popped, and it just takes so much out of my soul. So like you were saying, like particular movements, like the leg press for me, I know I can't take more than 3 sets. Like 3 sets is like even pushing it. And I know people are like, That's nothing. But it's like, okay, well, or if you're talking about me, like, I mean, I could probably do like 10 sets of bicep curls and probably still be going. Like, it's like there's the opposite spectrum. Even though obviously I don't do 10 sets of bicep curls like in one, workout, but like, like that's just an example per se of what Roman's talking about.
So funny that you mentioned that, because I did that very thing. I wanted to do it longer, but I had started it right before I went to Jamaica, but I ended up doing a bro split, and I want to say I started probably at like the 12 to 15 sets per like muscle group
Oh,
range.
heck yeah.
I loved it. It was so
Yeah.
sick, and like you'd only hit it one time a week. I want to say I did it like for maybe 2.5 weeks or something like that. And it was so fun, because it'd be like after I do like dumbbell incline bench, I would do like Smith bench, and then I'd do like cable fly, and then I'd do like machine fly, and then I'd do like one more thing, and it was like my
And
chest
then
would.
you felt like Arnold, you're like the pump. If it's almost like I'm coming. It's like
There,
I'm coming day and night.
it would be like the skies would open up and would start playing. The clouds would be like a golden yellow. Uh, all jokes aside, important thing there is, if you are modulating the stress, then like you're not fragile. Like you can like be an absolute beast. Would I say that like creates maximal gains? No, because like, I mean, I'd be so sore. Like it'd just be sore. It wouldn't be pain. The kind of pain.
You wouldn't even be able to type on the keyboard for your job.
Man, it'd be so bad that like I couldn't even
Lift the coffee cup.
would affect like pulling movements. So I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh well, all right. So I can see some of like the limitations of doing this. So you have to be like incredibly strategic about how you plan it out. It'd be like, chest one day, quads the next day, back the next day, leg, hams and like calves the next day, and then like, shoulders and arms. But that shoulder and arm session would be like 30 sets or something like that. So you're going to be there for like 2.5 hours, So it's like, if you're not going to do 6 sessions a week, then it's like, it makes no sense. But I want to just quickly wrap up a few notes on deload. So workout counting or set counting is something that I'm going to move more towards, as opposed to a weekly ratio of deloading, the 3-to-1, 4-to-1 example. During deloads, I've been implementing this for a while, but I don't know if I've ever talked about it. So I call it novelty stresses. So what they are, maybe slight variations to an exercise. So as opposed to doing like both your legs for leg extension, for example, you might just do one. And obviously you end up dropping the weight like significantly, and you stay pretty far away from failure or wherever your reps in reserve were. So let's say you're at like RPE 8 or 9, it'd be like under RPE 5, for example. So I would go from like a 2-legged leg extension to 1 leg, and I'd really focus on the maybe time under tension during the extension part of the exercise, if that's what feels like good to that joint or that muscle that I'm trying to like focus on. So I call those novelty stresses. It's something that I am kind of pursuing, and I have been pursuing it for a long time. And the idea or the justification behind it is that these novelty stresses can reduce the potential risk of overuse injuries. I also want to stress that like an occasional week off from time to time, like adding in stretching and potentially very light lifting, but nothing structured, can be extremely helpful. And then the last point I want to mention is, during that week, try and bring your overall stress levels down. So if work has been like crazy stressful, find a way that you can try to reduce that stress, whatever it might be. Maybe it's you talk to your like manager, or like you talk to your team members if you are a manager, etc. And you say like, hey, once in the morning and once in the afternoon, and potentially on my lunch break too, I'm going to take a short walk. So I'm going to be unavailable from this time to this time. It's just a potential stress reduction strategy, whatever works for you. It might be, you're going to like log off of your collaboration platform, and you're going to listen to one 5-minute song. And if your employer doesn't allow that, then you should probably do a new company or a new employer, because they're trash. Because it's like time and time again from productivity studies, it demonstrates like how effective this can be from a performance standpoint. So yeah, that's the last point I wanted to stress is try and lean into, especially on that deload week, more stress reduction strategies. Any last minute comments or thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, like you were talking about, I think you sort of mentioned it, but like instead of like the week thing, you could kind of build up on the sets, and you kind of have that maximum set range. So if like Roman caps out at 25 sets on biceps, and he starts at like 10 to 12, and then eventually, like when he gets up to 25 sets for the week, then he knows he needs to hit that deload to like 15 sets. So just, I know you mentioned it somewhat, but I just wanted to give like I guess a granular example on it, because like you could do stuff like that. Say if like, you might be a slow grower into those sets. Say if like you start at 12, and every week you might add like 2 sets or maybe one. It might take you a couple weeks to get there, but like, like once you hit 25 on your biceps, that's when you start feeling like sore. You can't pull. A lot of the things are just getting affected because of that. So like that could be like a good example too. If like, say if like the 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, sometimes your weeks are just like so random where it's like it's kind of hard to like measure weeks like that. So like that's a good idea. And then the last thing too, I just want to mention it. I know we got like 2, 3 minutes left, but I just had the conversation today with one of the guys that's a runner. He was very obese 6 years ago, so his mindset's very hard to shut him off, right? So he's like, I want to work hard, 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 hard all the time. And he told me he's been having a little bit of pain on his front padding of his foot when he runs. And I generally just asked him. I said, hey, just like lifting weights, because again, it's the same. In my opinion, it's the same thing with running or biking or you know climbing or CrossFit. Like, hey, are you taking a break sometimes off of running like you are lifting? And he said, not really, no. So, I told him like, hey, like it might not be a serious issue, but you might want to take like 2, 3 weeks off. It might suck, but just run less. Maybe bike, because he has a bike. He's got a good bike that relieves some pressure off the foot. Maybe do something like that, and then you know and then go back to it. Obviously, if it's more serious, you might want to see a doctor, see some X-rays, MRIs, good things like that. But a lot of people don't realize, like, just because you're not lifting, and people listening, if you're not a lifter and you're like a biker or a runner, it's the same thing as Roman's saying. It just flipped the vocabulary and the definitions. So if Roman's talking about sets, look at miles, look at tempo. Like, say if you're doing short bursts of runs one week and then long distance, maybe switch it up where it's like the tempo is not as hard, or if the distance is not as far. So that's all I wanted to add. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We miss you guys. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Please let us know what you want to see next. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.